Welcome back to Midlife by Human Design. I'm your host, Lori Lisai, and I help midlife women learn how to use your human design so you can shed the shoulds and be who you came here to be. Today's episode is actually one that I recorded last summer when I met my lovely guest, Megan Potter. And I just have been sitting on it for a while until it came time to publish, which for me, honestly, just means after a long break when both my boys are home. And yeah, it's just been busy. So I know you're going to love this episode. Megan Potter is a vibrant, multifaceted soul whose passion for bright colors and the magic of spring mirrors her zest for life. Megan is the powerhouse behind a coaching company dedicated to women's empowerment and guiding couples through premarital and marriage coaching. She also officiates weddings, bringing her heartfelt touch to countless love stories. Megan is also a widow who found her dream partner in Christopher, her second husband, and she also shares her life with two adorable pups, Tucker and Star. We are going to talk about her life, the craziness that she has experienced in her short 30-plus years. And we're going to look at her human design and all the good things. So let's dive in. Welcome back to Midlife by Design. Today I have with me Megan Potter, who is a 3-5 emotional manifesting generator. And she has lived an incredible amount of life in her short 35-ish years. So I'm going to let her tell you a little bit about herself, and just super excited to dive into what it's looking like for Megan as she's sort of coming into midlife. So welcome, Megan.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me, Lori.
Absolutely. So as I mentioned, you've lived like a ton of life in your 35 years. Can you tell us about your journey up to this point?
Yes. So, where to begin? So starting out, I felt a deep call into ministry when I was 15. I went to a Christian Baptist college, and then I fell for the outspoken, mission-minded boy. We ended up getting married really young. He had just turned 23. I had turned 24. And we got married in 2013. It took me a second. His name was Ryan, and we went on to go to seminary. I was a hospital chaplain for a while. I was a chaplain at a homeless shelter. And then I was a youth pastor at a church, and he was an associate pastor at the church. Quickly got burnt out, and I said, okay, we have to do something else. And I don't know if I said this, we actually got into the movie scene in Atlanta. I met my all-time hero, Reese Witherspoon. We did some movies with Jamie Foxx and some other people. And then he just could not stay out of ministry. So we went and moved into the hills. We left Atlanta, booming Atlanta with like 1 million people. And we moved into a town that had 835 people. That's what their sign said, 835. So we moved into a very small Appalachian mountain town. We did construction nonprofit at a place called ASP. We met some lovely people, but it definitely was not conducive for me. I had to give up a lot of my dreams. And so there I decided, okay, well, I'm going to start a business. So I started Stressless Weddings, and the coordinating took off. And so I did coordinating for a while. And then fast forward to 2017, my husband was driving to work up in the Appalachian Mountains, and he was horribly, tragically killed in a car wreck. And that changed the trajectory of my life again. And after 2017, I had to stop coordinating weddings because my body was in deep decline. I had an autoimmune disease, and I just couldn't stand on my feet that long. And so then I ended up getting an office job to kind of pay for things. I continued with types of premarital pastoral counseling. And And now I have created Megan Potter coaching, which I love. And so I've been doing life coaching and women's empowerment coaching for a while. And I still do premarital pastoral coaching, women's coaching, pastoral coaching. And then I officiate weddings as well. And so I've been doing that. I'm remarried to an awesome man named Christopher. And yes, my life has just taken so many turns, and it doesn't feel like a right turn, right? Like it's not like a 90-degree angle turn. It's like a screw turn, right? And it's like I've been thrown into a twister. It's more than a 360. So that is kind of a quick overview of my life. And yes, and I did all of that. And now I'm 35, and we had a miscarriage last year. So we've just had a lot of grief, a lot of like extreme highs and hopes, and that have just ended in some deep sadness.
Yeah, for sure. It sounds like grief has definitely been part of, a deep part of your journey. I'm thinking about all of the different things that you've described, the different pivots, and pivot is a classic term related to a manifesting generator type. Lots of different twists and turns, and you've shared a lot of those that have happened for you so far in your lifetime. I'm curious about what is currently lighting you up.
I love that you just asked that. So, you and I chatted a couple weeks ago, and since then, I've actually totally revamped and changed my Instagram that I've had since 2016, so almost 10 years. And it has been in the like mental health, mindfulness, emotional intelligence field. And I finally realized I was doing that out of shoulds. I felt like I should do that because that is what I could help the most people with. And my husband Christopher and I just recently spent a month in Hawaii, which was amazing. So I took a month sabbatical to Hawaii. We spent all of July in Hawaii. And I came back refreshed and rejuvenated and really excited to live again, to be totally honest. And I decided I am going to make choices for me and for my happiness. And Christopher told me, he said, what would your life look like if, I should have got Kleenexes. He said, what would your life look like if for the next year you just chose Megan and you chose happiness instead of taking care of everybody else? And honestly, Lori, I've never thought of that as an option. And that may sound crazy to some people because he has taught me that many people think about their own happiness on the daily. And that is just something I did not think about because of the faith culture I was raised in and just who I am as a person. And so I've been trying to think about that. And so kind of transitioned into a home account on my Instagram. So all the listeners, please go follow my home account. But it's Megan Potter Home. And what I love to do currently, our neighbors put out amazing trash every week. They put out beautiful furniture, beautiful things that other people can use. And so Christopher and I go around and we collect those, and then I sell them on Facebook Marketplace, or I give them to people in need, and they keeps them out of the landfill. So that's something I'm trying to work on, is a little bit of being kinder to the earth. That was something we really saw a lot of in Hawaii and learned from the people, which I love. And so, yeah, and I also love thrifting and decorating. And you can't tell right now because we are currently selling my house. Like we just showed it yesterday. So I had to take down all of everything that made this house me. I felt like I had to take down. So it's pretty bare, but I love decorating. And so I decided I'm just going to show people that. And I'm just doing it as a passion project. And I'm learning what that means to allow something to be a passion project and not have to help someone or change someone's life or make money. And yeah, so that's what I'm trying to do currently.
This makes my heart so happy for a number of things that I just wanted to comment on. Number one, you mentioned the faith culture as sort of conditioning you, not sort of, deeply conditioning around serving others, and in so doing, sacrificing yourself. And it's classic for the society in which we live. And I think it often is just exponential when you do step into organized religion, and that is a personal opinion of mine. And I come from many, many years and many generations of ministry myself. And I consider myself to be very spiritual, but not religious. And it's interesting to hear your story around being able to come back to yourself. And honestly, being able to do it at age 35 is such a beautiful thing, because I work with women who are often a little further along, 40s, 50s, and they're just coming into some of those realizations. So what I'm also seeing, though, is that younger generations, those about a decade or two behind us, maybe are discovering these things a little sooner because they are seeing us discover them in our 40s and 50s instead of never, or instead of in our 60s and 70s. And the other thing that I noticed and really appreciate about you is your emotional solar plexus. So your authority is your solar plexus. Half the world is in the same boat. And essentially that means that you are designed to take your time when you're making decisions and base them on how you feel. It's not about making a decision in the moment. So let's say, you're in Hawaii and you're having this conversation with your husband and something in the moment gets you really excited. You kind of ride that wave and you experience that excitement and you let yourself flow through that excitement. And then there may be times when you experience a lull, it kind of comes back down, and maybe you experience some questions about following that string that excited you, right? And your expression of your emotions and just allowing yourself to feel through them is so important and part of what makes your way of doing things so special. So kudos to you for joking about the Kleenex, but feeling it when those tears come. And also, I'm curious about your decision making, and how has time kind of played a component in your ability and your approach to making decisions in life?
Well, first, I want to say it's like you jumped inside my head and knew exactly how I feel. That was wild. So I just wrote down really quick. You were talking about the solar plexus and that I do take time. And so what's kind of funny is when I think about myself and I think about my my Myers-Briggs, I'm an ENFJ. And so I've explained that to my husband several times. And I love that what you do, I feel like, is another extension of fully understanding who we are, right? So you said, I take my time to come to a decision. And what's funny is, so my husband is a rocket scientist by trade, which I'm very proud of. And he would say that I make decisions quite quickly, I would think, because he is, because he's an engineer, he takes forever to make a decision, right? And so when it comes to me, I'm processing what you said, Lori, because in the past, I would have said that I make decisions quickly, but you're so right. I do take so much time, but the difference is, like you said, I feel it in my gut and I know what the right answer is from the beginning. And I think that's something that I learned that I do that other people do not do. And especially being married to an engineer this time around, because my first husband, he was wild. He had just he was like a bunny rabbit all the time. They said he was like the Energizer Bunny, and it's so true. And he would just make a decision and just go with it. And granted, his prefrontal cortex was only fully developed for 2 years before he died. So I think that's a little bit funny. And I think now, if he were here, he would laugh about that. Anyway, so he would just decided things so fast. And so I always felt like a deep thinker because when you compare yourself to your partner, right? And so compared to him, I was the turtle, right? Like, even though I thought I did make decisions quickly, but now that I'm married to an engineer, it is so different. And until you said that, Lori, I had not processed that. I'm processing this out loud with you all right now. So yes, whenever I make a decision, it usually hits literally in my belly, like in my gut, and then I can feel it in my heart. And then I know what's right. Like I know what, the choice is.
Yeah.
Then often my brain starts to maybe weigh the pros and cons or say, this could happen, right? And so depending where my headspace is, depends probably how quickly I move forward. But I do. You were so right. Again, it's like you're in my brain. This is amazing. To the question, but yes, I do take my time to make the decisions, but my gut tells me what to do.
Yeah. And let me reflect for you what's going on there in terms of your design, because you talk about your gut and that is your sacral speaking to you. So that's great. Like that should definitely inform your ultimate decision. It's just that you don't want to let it be kind of the last word or the word in the moment with which you take action. It is the emotional authority that slows it down. And you also have your spleen defined, which is your intuition. So you use the word like, I know what's going on. That's all about the defined spleen. And so you have those 3 centers in your design all working in tandem with one another. However, the reason it's called authority is because there is a hierarchy. So you want to take that knowing and you want to take that gut feeling and let them inform that final decision. But instead of making it right in the moment, because the sacral and the spleen are both in the moment, they're going to know in that moment what's exciting or what's intuitively right for you. You want to take that information and then just let it sit, let it percolate. And the idea here is allowing things to then come into your purview, kind of come into your universe, sort of looking for signs, basically, to help you solidify the decision. You know, like, okay, this is what I feel. I'm excited. This is what I know is right. Now I'm going to look for signs that direct me, that say, yes, this is the way. Or alternatively, look for signs that say, maybe now is not the right time. And I just need to put a pin in it. So, that could be somebody emailing you something. It can be completely random things, something you overhear while you're in line to get a coffee, something on a billboard, all these types of things that can come into your awareness. That's what you're looking for. And then eventually what you want to come to is this feeling of neutrality where it's not super emotionally charged, but you're just like, yeah, this feels right, or maybe not now. Does that resonate?
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. You're magic. Yeah. I think as humans, we look for signs. And in my past, that would have been full of like praying, okay, God, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? And then we see it through signs. We see it through prayer or through scripture or through a billboard or through someone telling us. And then I think just as humans, like it's just there. The answers are right in front of us. And I'm blanking right now on when this has happened to me, but I know this happens all the time right? It's like when you're thinking of buying a red car and all you can see is red cars around you, right? I think sometimes too, there's actually like a psychological phenomenon about it. I can't remember what it's called, but right, when you're looking for something, sometimes you'll see it. And that has happened to me so many times. And one of the things I do that I did not know was part of the emotional solar plex, or whichever you would call this. Please tell me what this would be called. But one of the things I've done in my life is if I felt like I was supposed to do something, I would keep it to myself. I wouldn't write it down. I wouldn't speak it out loud. I would keep it very close and I would keep it private in my mind. And I would say, okay, if this is what I'm supposed to do, then have my partner speak about it, have my friends speak about it, have this happen, right? And so then it felt even more affirming when someone would randomly say the exact thing you were thinking, right? That you had not told anyone, but you felt deeply about. And that is something I've done my whole life. And I just thought that was a quirk in myself. So what does that mean? Why have I been doing that?
I mean, it's sort of a manifestation technique, I guess. It also feels to me like you're just using your intuition. That's how your intuition is speaking with you. I think what you talked about in terms of you want to buy a red car and then you see red cars all over the place, that's called the reticular activating system in our brains, which is literally programmed to look for the thing that we are looking for, even when it's subconscious. It's also really good to know that that's how our brain functions because humans have a negativity bias. We look for things that are going to either threaten us or threaten our survival. And so we're always looking for the negatives. And again, when we know that, we're able to reprogram that. And the thoughts that you're talking about, like if you really want something and you keep it inside, then you can program your brain to look for that. And that's when those things pop in potentially where somebody will mention it or whatever. As a manifesting generator, I would encourage you to say those things, even if you don't say them to anybody, but just giving them voice to let them out, because as an MG, you have this power in your voice to bring things into physical form. So when you really want something, even, say it while you're out on a walk or you're in the shower or whatever, but it's kind of one of your superpowers.
I want to know. Amazing. And when I was younger, and I would say that I had a lot less hardship, I feel like the things I wanted came to me. It was like I was magnetic. It was, I would speak it, and then the next week I would have it. And it was so wild, right? And people would take notice, and people would say things growing up. It was not always kind things, right? Because when the person next to you is getting everything they want, people are not kind about that. But wow, when I was younger, truly, it felt like everything I wanted would just come to me because I would try for it, and I fully believed that I could do it, right? There was no questioning. And I was really lucky to grow up in a household where both my mom and dad said, if you want to be the president of the United States, you can be the president. So I was like, okay, I'm a girl, but I can do it. I never knew those limitations. And I remember a very specific event that happened to me in 2008 in the fall when I went to college. It was my first time that I felt like someone of authority said, whoa, you're a girl, you can't do that. And that, I think back to that a lot. So maybe that was a pivotal moment for me of questioning my power.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it sounds like it, and isn't that classic, right? To be told you can't do something because you're a woman.
Exactly. Yeah. And especially in Baptist church world, it was
Right.
in the church world. And I knew what was so crazy is I knew the people that they were sending out. I was like, well, he can't do that better than I can, but he, wow.
Yeah. I think
that's been part of my healing from church problems is remembering who I was before all of that, because she was really powerful and she was really magnetic.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh. An aligned generator type is magnetic AF for sure. Okay, I want to circle back to your solar plexus, the emotional gift that you have in literally showing people how to feel. So 50% I mentioned of the population is here with a defined emotional solar plexus and is really here to show people how to feel. And given your life trajectory so far, you've had a fair amount of grief, right, that you've had to work through. And so I'm curious about how you've been able to take that grief and use it to help you kind of feel and therefore show others, demonstrate for others how to deeply feel.
Wow. Again, it's like you've been watching my life. Whenever Ryan was killed, one of the biggest things, and I remember his family told me at one point, they're like, Megan, you don't have to keep being the widow and you don't have to keep showing this part to people. Like, you can focus on yourself. You know, they were trying to help me and they were trying to, I guess, protect me. But I remember I just had such a strong conviction after he was killed that it was my job to show people that you can have both joy and pain simultaneously, and that you can have, grief and joy were the biggest two that I always talked about. Something that people have reached out to me about is that they said that I've handled all this with grace. And that's kind of funny because I love Miss Congeniality. And Elle Wood's Miss Congeniality, that's my jam. And, you know, we handle things with grace and be a pageant queen. But I would never think that I handled it with grace, because I know about the days when I was not faced on the floor, sobbing, right? But in my soul, one thing that I kept holding together, and I bought a sign that it is well with my soul. And the person who wrote that song had, like, I think they were on a boat, and I believe like their children and their spouse had died. And it was like, I remember hearing the story. So you'll have to look that up. But whoever wrote It Is Well With My Soul, that beautiful hymn, that was something that and I thought about this last night. This is wild, Lori. Oh, Ryan has been deeply with me the last couple of days. And I thought about that song last night. And even though I did not know if I was going to wake up the next day, because I thought that I would literally die of sadness, I had this unmoving peace. And I would hear the words, "It is well with my soul," and I would just be filled with peace. And I just knew that it was going to be okay. Now, that was probably, one of the hardest moments of my entire life, but also one of the times that I felt the most peace. I feel like I'm digressing, but okay. To return to your question, can you repeat your question one more time? I'm sorry.
No, I think what you're sharing is such a lovely way to answer the question, because I was asking about your experiences with grief and how you've been able to use them to demonstrate what it's like to feel deeply. And what I'm seeing here and so grateful for is the vulnerability that you're coming to this pod with, and just your willingness to, like, feel all the feels and let them come out and let them, trickle out your eyeballs in this moment. And that we've already been on such an emotional journey, even in just this short pod. We've experienced some laughs and some highs and then some sadness. And I love your reflection on the ability to hold joy and pain simultaneously. And I think that that is part of the gift of emotionals, is to be here to share that with us, you know?
Not believe I don't have a Kleenex. Yes, because often I will cry with my clients. I always have Kleenexes because I just think we are humans and we feel. And to deny that is a lie. And I am not a liar. Like, I just cannot lie. And that has gotten me in trouble in life. I have learned many people tell half-truths. I cannot tell a half-truth. I have to tell the whole truth. And I believe that part of a spiritual gift is it is telling the full truth. I believe that's part of who I am. But yeah, I just think that so many of us hurt so deeply, but so many people have never seen someone model how to just live sad and also live abundantly, right? Like, I feel like I live abundantly, but I am sad a lot of the time.
Yeah.
It's okay to cry now. And I know that in a couple hours, I will be laughing or working or smiling. And we are not crazy for having all of these emotions. We're human. And I think that's something beautiful about being human, is that we get to feel so deeply. And truly, I feel sorry for people who don't allow themselves to feel deeply. I know many people who don't allow themselves to feel. And I would argue that's because they're afraid of their feelings and they're afraid of what will happen once and I've had people tell me, Megan, I don't want to open that floodgate because what will happen to me? How will I change? I just don't want to even go there. And so they spend their whole life having a piece of them locked away behind a door. And then they're living, 80% of their life. And I'm like, but what about that 20%? Like, that's still part of you. And I want to bring 100% of myself to the table. And even if it's a lot and a lot of feelings, I'm so proud of myself now as a 35-year-old, because Megan in her 20s, the people who did not accept her, or especially usually people's brothers or their husband, it'd be like, whoa, she has way too many feelings. She has way too many opinions, whatever. And I feel sorry for particularly specific men in my life who they just didn't allow themselves to feel. And they also didn't allow their wives to feel and to be fully human. And yeah, I'm so proud of myself now as a 30-year-old. Now I can feel for them and I feel sorry for them. But as a 20-year-old, man, they really hurt me deeply.
Well, you're here to feel. That's part of your purpose, is feeling. So keep doing you're doing and keep modeling, what you've been modeling is just a beautiful thing. One of the things that we talked about in your design was gate 10, which you have, which is in the identity center, which is that middle diamond shape in your chart. And gate 10 is all about self-love, empowerment, self-acceptance when it's in the high expression. So when we're expressing it in the highest kind of form. And then by contrast, in the low expression, it can be about victimhood and blame and self-loathing. And I know you have some stories with, honestly, if you're a woman in our society, I think you've got like some stories about this energy. But I'm curious for you how you've experienced the highs and lows of this energy, and maybe as it relates to the autoimmune, or just reflections on this type of energy for you.
I love that. So gate 10. So what I do now as a women's empowerment coach, right? Like, isn't that just so funny that like gate 10, like who I am in my highest, as you said, is a self-lover, empowerment matters, self-love matters. And to the point where family members in the past, right? They know that I'm going to come at them with empowerment language and self-love language, and I'm going to keep encouraging them to love themselves to the point where they don't want to hear it anymore. Something I've said about people for a long time is I truly do not believe anyone is ugly. When I look at people, I'm like, oh, aren't they cute? And then some of my friends sometimes will be like, what? I mean, don't they just look so sweet? And I believe that something about who I am is like, I see people's insides on the outside, right? Like, I don't necessarily see their outsides. I see their insides when I look at a person. And so I believe everybody is beautiful in like their own way. And that's how I see people because and so, yeah, with empowerment and self-love, but then there are the dark days, right? We're not always in our highest. We struggle. And oh man, do I struggle. I will just say last night, my husband came home and I was just crying and he was like, what is going on? I was like, I don't know. I just feel off. And I also realized I hadn't cried in like weeks. And for me, that is something I have to let out. So if you are listening right now, you are not weird for needing to cry on a weekly basis. I would say that is a good purge, a very healthy purge, especially
maybe even daily. Yeah, maybe daily if you're an emotional,
Yes, absolutely. I cry happy tears, excited tears, sad tears, depressed tears, grief tears, right? And ever since I've been allowing myself to fully feel, man, I feel more like myself and I feel alive. And so like you said, so the highest is self-love and empowerment. But then in our lowest or in our struggling can be loathing, victim, and blaming. And so going back to religious upbringing, so in the conservative Baptist world, so for me it was Southern Baptist, there was a lot of you are nothing, like taught at church, right? You are nothing, you are scum, like God makes you good, but you are nothing. But then I'd go home and my parents would teach me like, you're awesome. So I was very lucky, very, very lucky that thankfully I was not brainwashed by Southern Baptists to become a self-loathing person. My first husband, Ryan, was because of his very, very conservative Christian upbringing. And so that was something I kind of worked against a lot with him when we were together. And so I think because I was so focused on him and like trying to lift him up because he was doing so much self-loathing, and no one on the outside knew that because on the outside, he was vivacious. And so after he died and I was no longer trying to keep him afloat with the self-loathing, I think then it was right there in front of me for me to have, if that makes sense. Because that's not really something I struggled with until after he died. And when he died, taking some of his theology into me became part of me, if that makes any sense. It's like trying to keep him alive through that. So I had to really work through that. But anyway, so my autoimmune disease really ramped up after he was killed in 2017. And it was ramping up a little bit before he died. It started in April and he was killed in July. And there was a lot of just frustration, right? And the loathing for me became loathing of my body. Not my spirit, not who I was, not my religion, but my physical body. Why is this body doing this? And why is this my burden to bear? Like, why do I have this autoimmune disease? Why can't it just get better? And, something that we now know about autoimmune disease is it's deeply connected to our emotions and to what we're going through and to our mental health. And that was sort of known by me in 2017, But much more now, 7 years later, I definitely see why it, did that. But there are definite days now, especially with my miscarriage, where I have to work hard to not hate the body uh, that couldn't carry the baby. And so what I try to say to myself is that baby would not have been safe. The baby would not have lived healthy, would not have lived well. And so my body protected baby by not allowing them to complete, right? But I believe that deeply, but it's also extremely hard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And thank you for sharing. I can only imagine how painful that experience has been. And it just floors me, the amount of, the number of challenges that you have faced in your 35 years. And I also really commend you and am grateful for you being willing to share that, to be an inspiration and to teach other women how to experience and pull through, still keep living, still look for the brightness and the joy that life can deliver. So thank you for that. We talked briefly when we were chatting a few weeks ago about money mindset.
Oh, yes.
Another kind of fun topic, especially for women, right?
Yes.
And just something that late stage capitalism has made really challenging for a lot of people. So I know it's something that you are currently learning and unraveling, the idea that money is the root of all evil, or that it's not good to be wealthy because you should be giving all of your money away if you have wealth. And this is a reflection for you of your completely open ego or heart center. One of the things that's interesting about your design is that the centers that are undefined are actually fully open, which means you have no gates that are activated in 4 of your centers. So in your ego or heart center, it's completely open. And this is the center where we have worth, basically. It's understanding our worth. And for those people who have an undefined or open heart center, it's really about building wisdom around our worth and understanding that our worth is not tied to money. It's not tied to productivity. And that's the majority of people. 70-ish% of people have an open or undefined heart center. So there are a lot of people that are walking around building that wisdom. So I'm curious for you, what have you learned about this so far from trial and error and mistakes that you might have made that are teaching you or have taught you?
Yes. So the first one that kind of pops into my mind is I was originally, when I first started in the women's coaching sphere, I was extremely undercharging. And the reason I did this was because I wanted all the people who needed my help to be able to come to me. I didn't want money to be an obstacle. So I would do sessions for free. I would give them a discount if they asked. I would do whatever it took because I just wanted people to have a safe, well-informed, educated ear to listen to, to listen to them. And so way back in the day when I first started coaching, I used Venmo. And there was this girl that would see me like once a week. And she would always say like, I'm struggling with money. I can't pay right now, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, no problem. You can pay me later. Like, no problem. Okay. So then on Venmo, you can see what they spend their money on, right? And so I was giving this girl deeply discounted things because she didn't have the money. Then I saw what she was buying. She got her nails done. She had someone come to her house and give her a spray tan. She was getting all these luxurious things that I could not afford to even get for myself because I was deeply discounting things for her because she told me she was like struggling. And I was so mad/hurt. And I felt taken advantage of, right? And now that I'm older, I think I realized like I had the power to set a boundary there and I didn't set a boundary. But that was just a really good learning moment for me. And so moving forward, I ended up hiring a business coach. And what she ended up helping me with was definitely charge my worth. And I didn't do discounts. And then she would say things like, people will pay for what they value. And that showed me, I knew that. So this girl, she valued having her nails done. She valued having her spray tan. She valued what she looked like. She didn't really care about her mental health. She was just at a point where she had to deal with it, right? Because it was staring her in the face. People pay for what they value. And then growing up, one of the things I would say is I want to be the CEO of a major corporation that specializes in sales. Okay. I wanted to make the money, have the nice house, dress like Elle would, right? Like I wanted it all. And then I married a martyr who wanted to be like Jesus. And literally he lived homeless. I think he lived in a cardboard box at one point, like extreme. And so to marry a man like that, I was influenced by what he believed. And part of his belief was martyrdom and we don't need money and give all your money away. And he had seen that from his parents. And I had not seen that. And so anyone who's listening right now, please, please think about the people you're surrounded by, not just your spouse, but your coworkers, family, whoever you talk to on a daily basis. When you are saying things to them, think about the I'm rubber, you're glue, whatever I say bounces off you and sticks to me, something like that. It is whenever you say those things and the people respond, the people you're surrounded by quickly begin to get in your head and become who you are. And money mindset is still hard for me. I still feel weird getting paid to help people because I know it's my life's calling to help people. But at the same time, I have champagne taste. You know what I mean? I like fancy things. And money helps you get fancy things.
It does. And honestly, we live in a world that's fueled by money, and it is how we deal in energetic exchanges, right? So if you can shift your thinking to, yes, this is your calling, this is how you help people, the money is an energetic exchange. It is their gratitude for your help because you are showing up in your calls, in the work that you're doing with them and for them, with energy, and you are expending your energy to help them. And their gratitude, their exchange for that is that monetary, exchange. So one of the things that you said, which I've heard time and again by business coaches, is this idea of charging your worth. And I just wanted to circle back around to that phrase because I think it's probably not the right terminology. It's not exactly what is meant when they say that, because the fact of the matter is that none of us could ever charge our worth, right? Our worth as human beings cannot be measured in dollars, right?
I love that.
It is infinite. Our souls are not to be measured by dollar bills or whatever currency. that we are exchanging. However, I think that we can say, okay, this is the society in which I live. These are the expenses that I have. This is the champagne taste that I have and how I want to live my life and how I feel best in my best expression. And I can charge what's going to help me live that lifestyle because I know and I'm clear on my values, right? So that's how you can sort of reframe it and approach it and not feel guilty, not feel some degree of guilt that you are charging money. Because if people aren't showing up with some sort of energetic exchange, they don't have their foot all the way in the work either. And I think the lady with the nails and the spray tan, perfect example, right? She's like all in on the things that make her beautiful on the outside, which is great. Like if that makes her feel good, wonderful. And plus also when you are investing in yourself, then you're really, you're in the game, right? You've got some skin in the game. So you're probably more likely to put in some of the work. So Megan, I want to hear a little bit about like where we can find you and tell us a little bit about what you've got cooking. You mentioned Megan Potter Home. So just tell us how our listeners can find you.
Yeah, I would love to connect on Instagram. That is my favorite platform to use. It just feels very homey to me. So I am on Instagram at Megan Potter Home, all one word. So that's MEGANPOTTERHOME. So I'm on Instagram at Megan Potter Home. I'm currently love doing some curbside finds, some thrifting. We're doing moving and decorating, and I'll be officiating weddings starting in 2026 in Atlanta, Georgia. But yeah, saw on a light. I would love for you to reach out, send me a DM on Instagram, and I would love to chat. I currently am taking clients, so if I sound like a good fit for you and you need an empowerment coach or you're a woman who needs a coach, absolutely reach out. And I can give you my, my website is megan-potter.com. So that's a great way to reach out to me as well. I'm on the contact form. So that's megan-potter.com. And right now I'm just kind of trying to lean into things that I love and that give me life.
I'm just giggling, Megan, because it's classic manifesting generator where you've got like 17 things that you're offering. And you're working on the things that light you up. So I love that so much. And we will drop the links in the show notes for people to find you. And just really want to express my gratitude for you for showing up in your whole self and willing to be vulnerable and feel all the feels and share your incredible life experience so far. Just really appreciate you. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Take 5. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of Midlife by Human Design. If you are not already on my email list, then what are you even doing? Click that link in the show notes and get your fanny on there because you want to hear about not only the December deals that will be happening, but also you want to be on the list for when Midlife by Human Design Lab opens. And you also want to just get my emails because they are packed full of value. So sign up on the link below, and you can also find links to connect with Megan if you would like to do so. And I am wishing you the strength to let go of what no longer serves you, joy to fill your days, and the clarity to be who you came here to be.